and welcome to this week's Horse Show with me, Chris Stafford. I'm joined this week by a colleague of mine from Ireland who's just hardly got her breath back from covering the Tokyo Olympic Games. That's equestrian journalist Louise Parkes. Louise, you've been on the show before, but it's been a long time and a lot has happened in this COVID time warp. But have you got your breath back now from Tokyo?
Hi, Chris. Yes, just about getting it back at this stage, but in a couple of days' time, due to head to Germany for 2 weeks for European Championships. So not an awful lot of time to catch the old breath. But it was the most fascinating games, and but very, very exhausting. Could have done with a week off, to be honest, but didn't happen. And here we go. We're about to head into yet another championship very shortly.
Well, of course, this is very unusual. You normally wouldn't be doing this because the Europeans fall in between those Olympic years, don't they? And
they do.
World Equestrian Games years. So this is unusual. It's unusual too for the riders and for the horses. Well, do you think, we're jumping the gun a bit because I do want to reflect on Tokyo performances, but do you think there'll be any horses that would be at the European Championships that had been in Tokyo?
In show jumping, I think there are a couple listed to go, but I think we could find that there will be changes even over the next few days to the entries. Most of the horses are having a well-deserved rest, and gosh, they really deserve it. The heat and humidity in Tokyo was incredible, and for any horse to be fit and well enough to go to another championship within a couple of weeks, it's quite amazing. So I suppose the only ones who just might do it are people with horses that didn't do the full length of the Tokyo Olympic Games. And there were a couple of those, and they were certainly talking about taking the horses to Riesenbeck next week. But whether it happens or not, it's difficult to say, because by the end of the week, they may still have time to change their minds and take an alternative.
Well, by all accounts, it was an extraordinary Olympic Games. And you mentioned the heat and humidity combined, which we expected. And this is not new to equestrian sport, because we've often landed in countries that has been a factor in, and there have been more and more precautions against this now, and we've become a lot more sophisticated in how we take care of that for the horses. And it looked from TV, at least halfway around the world, that the horses really had the best of care. We have to emphasize that, because the horses' welfare is paramount. And it looked like the cooling fans and facilities and tents and everything were really superb there in Tokyo.
I think a lot of the horses arrived in really peak condition, and honestly, it was difficult to tell that they had been put under any more pressure than they would be at most other events. The fact that, for instance, in eventing, the time for the cross country was shortened obviously made a difference. But I think we've got it down to a fine art now, and the majority of the horses coped absolutely brilliantly. There were one or two who very early on showed that their ability to cope with the heat and humidity wasn't as good as others. And that's just literally like people. It's in the nature of the beast. Some of them coped brilliantly. Others faded a little bit with the heat. But in general, the condition of them all at the end was quite amazing. They finished in fantastic condition. The stabling, by all accounts, was state of the art in terms of lovely and cool, big stables, great areas to do your training and your warm up and your general sort of just leg stretching for the horses at the venue in Bajikoan. And I was astounded by how well they all coped with it. Unfortunately, the real test turned out to be that amazing arena at Bajikoan, which not every horse particularly liked, as you probably noticed.
Yes, what was that about, do you think? I mean, apart from the wrestlers, the Somi wrestlers wrestling, what I mean, because it's extraordinary, as I said, in itself as an Olympic Games, because it went ahead during a pandemic, but that there were no crowds, there were no atmosphere. And I think of all the venues and all the sports right across the board, the one athlete that would have been happy with that would be the horse.
Yeah, it's hard to explain it really, because I watched horses that I know are extremely experienced. They've been there, done that, and bought all the T-shirts coming into that arena, and just going, what? when they arrived inside, and you couldn't really explain it. And then other horses, sometimes younger ones with relatively less experience, managing to cope without any great difficulty. For the show jumpers, obviously the extraordinary course design took some of them by surprise. But what I felt it was it was like walking into the middle of a stage, instead of walking into an arena when you under those lights. The floodlights were incredibly bright, brilliant floodlights, and there was a kind of a slightly unreal feeling about being in that arena at times. And whether that affected the horses or not, I don't know. That's just my personal thought on it. But some of them were completely taken aback by it. Some of them didn't bat an eyelid. One of the ones that surprised me was Burlock's, that young horse belonging to Simone de Lestre for France. Mm-hmm. I don't think it had done an awful lot during its career. And it went into that arena and skipped around like it was Pony Club. Very strange. And yet other horses that had seen just about everything there is to see, even Clooney, Martin Fuchs Clooney, who I'm sure you know had a dreadful accident about a week ago now, completely disconnected, obviously, to any of this. He just looked like it was taking him a bit by surprise. Now, what has Clooney not done? I just found the whole thing quite fascinating. But the majority of them just got on with their job and did a fabulous job. It's great sport.
Yeah. Were you allowed to walk the course as we do typically before?
Yeah.
You were?
Yes, we were. Yeah, I did. And of course, like always, I look up at those poles because I'm a little bit short and I go, oh my God, the size of these tracks. But according to the riders, the tracks were not enormously big, demanding in size. It was more the test of rideability of the horses and the accuracy of the riders that Santiago Varela, the course designer, was looking for. He really did test them, and the riders were really full of praise for his course design ability because they felt he'd tested everybody at every level of rider, every level of horse. And I think you'd have to agree we come out with great sport at the end of it all.
Fantastic sport and in all three disciplines.
Yeah.
And history was made. Let's go back to the start, to eventing and the performances there. And what a wonderful job Julia Krajewski made of being the first woman to win a gold medal for not just for Germany, but in the sport of eventing, which actually took me by surprise a little bit when you think of some of the great female riders that have gone before her.
Yeah. Everybody was expecting that Michael Jung was about to do it all over again. And he was none too pleased with having that frangible pin fence at 14 came down for him. But he wasn't the only one. Quite a lot of horses just met that not quite right, and it did fall for a large number of them. But when he was taken out of the picture and Julia stepped into center stage, I mean, it was fantastic. And she's a very gracious person. She was lovely about the whole thing. And her horse, Mandy, as she calls her, was just amazing. Really, really amazing. It was a great result. And one for the ladies, as you say.
Very much one for the ladies. And she had a tremendous homecoming as well. I don't know if you saw any of that on social media. The reception she got back home, and the horse too.
I didn't know.
He came off the horse box, was just wonderful. And someone made a cake, and yes, there was much festivity to welcome her back. It really was lovely.
Great.
Really was lovely. But when you think about women in the sport, and the one thing we've always been very proud of is that women and men compete on equal terms in equestrian sport. Others do now, but we've traditionally always maintained that. Did you find on balance that anything was different this time in Tokyo? Because in show jumping it didn't happen, but in eventing and dressage we saw some wonderful performances, and of course women took the top spots in dressage.
They did. And of course, don't forget Laura Collett on the British team, on the British eventing team. Yes. I mean, how amazing is that woman?
Yeah.
She's lost sight in one eye. She was 8 years ago, more or less, written off after a horrible, horrible accident. And she has this resilience about her that's quite amazing. And she's, again, just a lovely person. And it was really lovely to see her, how the joy being on that British team brought to her. I mean, she's an extraordinary rider, and London 52 is a fabulous horse. But that was a really proud moment for her. She's one of those people that you just have to admire for guts and courage, no matter what happens.
No, isn't that true? For sure.
Yeah,
for sure. So the eventing was obviously a wonderful result for the ladies, as you say. And what else stood out for you from the eventing competition, Louise?
The course at Sea Forest, Chris, was quite spectacular. It really was. We had an amazing day. Very lucky with the weather in many ways. I hadn't actually seen it before actual cross-country day because I was up to my neck in other work. Lots of people had walked it several times, but the course was just wonderfully, wonderfully built, full of basically when Derek de Grazia had used a very small space to just the best possible advantage. And the clever design, the demands being made, horses finishing really quite fresh. I just adored the whole look of the cross country on cross country day. It was a joy to be there and to see so many horses finishing so well.
Did it remind you, was there any close resemblances to other Olympic tracks? And I know you mentioned it had been shortened too, so we keep modifying it for the horses and for the IOC. But did it remind you of anything else? Any other Olympic?
I can't really say it did because, that's a good question. I remember being really surprised when we went to Athens in 2004 at how just the land around the Equestrian stadium was adapted to provide a cross-country course. This was, now, I can't say it reminded me of anything else, but there were some spectacular views on it as well. When you were at some of the fences, it was, I suppose, a little bit like Hong Kong, the backdrop of the city. Yes. It was just amazing. You'd be looking at this enormous fence, but you'd realize there were high-rise buildings also, in the not very far distant. And Tokyo's beautiful, in terms of being in Tokyo Bay and all the waterways. And this was right beside where all the rowing had been happening. The Sea Forest area was where rowing also took place, where Ireland, by the way, won some medals. We were very proud of that. And yes, we got very excited about that. And it was, I suppose, a little bit like Hong Kong, but there were lots of, Derek had actually introduced some gradients so that it wouldn't all be a lot on flat ground. And he did it he's a genius of a course designer, actually, really is. What he managed to get into that space was quite amazing.
Yeah.
But it was really, really good sport and a fabulous day. Everything always happens so quickly on cross country day, though, doesn't it?
It does. It always does.
The whole thing just seemed to fly by. Yeah. Very, very hot. And yet the horses, again, coped fantastically well with it.
Oh, well, that's wonderful. All right, well, let's talk about how the women stole the show in dressage too. We are slightly accustomed to this when it comes to the Germans. But what a fantastic competition that was.
Yeah. The team competition, Dorothy Schneider, Jessica von Bredow-Verndl and Isabel Wirth. I mean, you can't just look past that crew at all. 14 wins for Germany over the years. That's a lot of gold medals. There was never any real doubt about the team result, but not for gold. But I have to say I was slightly taken aback by the silver for USA because there was a magic about that American team. There really was. And my complete heroine at the end of the entire games was Sabine Schutt-Kerry. I had never come across the lady before. I had seen some advanced publicity about her being on the team, but I didn't know anything about her. And I found her backstory fantastic. And what a charming person she is. And what amazing scores she produced with that lovely Sanseo.
Yeah,
I absolutely. She lifted the whole dressage discipline to a different level, because there would always be a sameness about, and not meaning to be at all rude to our German friends. Of course, they're brilliant, and the fact that Jessica took the individual and Isabel took the silver, the gold and silver. You know what I mean? They really did dominate, but there was something Sabine brought to the whole dressage discipline that gave it a magic that hadn't been there before. It was lovely. It was,
that's wonderful.
Somebody achieving a dream, and yet what a fantastic horsewoman she is.
Yeah, and she scored of 84.3 in the freestyle. But what must have been obviously thrilling for you there on the ground was that duel for between the US and GB for the silver medal, and that ended up so tight. It was 77.47 total points for USA. 77.23. I mean, the margin was...
It's cruel, isn't it? It's nearly cruel in the end. But at the same time, do you know what? This was one of the interesting bits about this particular games. There was an air of feeling privileged to be there for everybody. Even the media people who... many of us had to go through quite a struggle to get there, and it was quite a challenge to get there, and the conditions, imposed in order to get there were very demanding. But once you got there, you were delighted to be there. And the athletes generally were just thrilled to get the opportunity to do their thing in the circumstances that we're all in. There would be a lot of people who would have said these games should never have gone ahead. But when you look back at it now, you realise it was a wonderful couple of weeks. And there was no animosity at all between, or even tension. You couldn't feel any tension between the teams when they went on the podium. The Germans were beyond doubt the dressage gold medalists. And there was so little between the Americans and the British. There was just a nice feeling about it all, a really nice feeling, no great tension. And of course, Charlotte Dujardin and Gio, how does she do it? She just goes out and finds herself another horse and goes, that's grand. I can turn this into an Olympic medalist, no problem at all. She's just amazing. Carl was himself, and Charlotte Fry did a really good job. So they very much deserved their bronze. And I'm pretty sure we're going to see an awful lot more of Charlotte and this lovely little chestnut, Gio.
Yes, just the beginning of his career, really, isn't it?
Absolutely. But Adrian Lyle and Stefan Peters really did their job. And when Sabine produced those fantastic scores, it was wonderful. It was wonderful. There was something just very refreshing. I think that's the word I'm looking for, about Sabine's attitude to the whole thing, because we're a little bit more used to the other faces. But it was all very new to her. Yeah.
Fresh face on the scene. And she did beat Edward Gold, which takes some doing too.
Yes.
And I will point out that there were 7 women in the top 10. 7 women. They took the top 5 places in dressage.
Yeah.
So we're very proud of that. It was Ladies' Day again, therefore.
Yeah. And Sabine's her relationship with that horse is lovely to watch, really lovely to watch. It's quite unusual. I mean, you can see the two of them, Sanseo and herself, obviously have this, they're on a wavelength, and it's just lovely to see them working together. But that all said, how can you look past our German friends? Yeah. They're just unbelievable, aren't they?
They really are.
And of course, Isabel now is going to retire Bella Rose at Aachen in a couple of weeks' time. Yeah,
I heard that.
I think.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the end of another era for her, but she always has another one coming along.
And I think, when I've spoken to her in the past, she's always said that it isn't so much the medals, it's being able to consistently keep producing the horses to this level. She doesn't count the medals, of which now goodness knows she must have a room just for them.
Yeah, she's a great lady. She really is. Really. And I think without riders of that caliber, the sport would be much weaker. And I think our lady riders really do inspire us all.
And they do. And, you know, let's not forget Jessica from Brendel, who actually won the gold medal, because she's a lovely lady too. And
she is.
And how excited was she? My goodness.
Yeah, she was thrilled. I mean, anybody who beats Isabel is always feeling pretty happy. And I think there was a fair bit of rivalry going on between those two, I think. But Dalera is lovely, and Jessica again, has this relationship with the mare that gives her that little bit of an advantage. But isn't she just the most delicate of riders as well?
Lovely. Yeah. I love her touch. Yeah. Very, very gentle. In fact, she's one of my favourite riders to watch. Yeah. Because it's just so light.
It is.
Lovely light contact. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that was fantastic. So, yay, big shout out to all the ladies there, because they really did excel. 7 of the 10 top places.
Pretty impressive.
Yeah, but in show jumping, a different picture again. We talk about equality, and it really is an equal sport. You know, men, it's all the same for men, for boys and girls. So it was interesting in show jumping that I don't know when the last time we had an individual. A gold medal, a female gold medalist. We'd have to look at the history books there.
I don't believe we've ever had one. Have we?
I'm going to have to look at this, because it surprised me that we didn't have in eventing until Julia's gold in Tokyo. So we're going to have to look back at our records and the history books there to see.
I could do some rustling around now and find it.
We'll do it afterwards, and I'll make a point of following this up with on the show notes. The show jumping we talked a little bit about, that was a fantastic competition, and gosh, fair play to the Swedes. They were faultless almost throughout. I think they had 2 rails down the whole of the show jumping competition. Big shout out to Malin Barrier, who I've been a fan of since I knew her when she was a teenager, and what a fantastic result for the Swedes. Very deserving, and what a beautiful performance.
Yeah, gosh. I mean, climax in the team competition, it seemed like the French had it in the bag. But unfortunately, Penelope was eliminated, as you might remember. So that all suddenly went in a different direction entirely. That whole team event generally was gripping, absolutely gripping sport. But the real standouts were the Swedes. Malin finished 5th individually, though, which is really creditable. And what a great relationship she has with that Indiana mare. Oh, my God, that mare's a bit of a lunatic. Malin kind of admits it herself. She said actually, when we were interviewing her one of the early nights during the jumping, that when she started riding Indiana, she was actually afraid of her, because the mare really wants to do the job, but she takes a terrible hold, and she's kind of just wild and a bit lawless and not altogether wanting to take instructions from on top. And Malin is such a petite little thing. And when Indiana gets going, like, it's just, she's like a whirling dervish going around the course. And Malin said that, there were times in the beginning when she wondered, could it ever come together? Remember the first time I saw her was at Rome, Piazza di Siena. And I thought, Malin, are you mad riding this mare? But anyway, over the intervening years, they've now just got their relationship going, and they understand each other perfectly well. And Malin knows when there's no point in trying to disagree with her, and just lets her get on and do her own thing. And it's wonderful to see, but it takes some skill and some courage to ride a mare like that. This is not some, jump on and go horse. And again, that's just an indication of the level of skill that Malin has. And as you say, I remember her being a skillful rider when she was a young kid. I mentioned it to her actually in Tokyo that the first time I saw her was in a pony championship in Mill Street in County Cork many years ago in the 1980s. And she was a gutsy little rider then, and nothing has changed. She's had... She's just full of ability and a lovely girl.
She's come a long way.
Yeah.
Yes, she really is. A lovely girl, tremendous talent, riding skills there. And as you pointed out, she did finish fifth individually. She was the only woman in the top 5 there in the individual show jumping. So shout out to her as well. Well, finally, Louise, what were your biggest takeaways from Tokyo? Because as we said, it's an extraordinary games, and it is now, as we speak, with the paras underway, it will be equally an extraordinary experience for our para-athletes.
How lovely the Japanese people were to us all. How keen they were to ensure that everything we did and everything we experienced was positive. So helpful, so kind, and so very helpful. And very proud that their country was staging the games, even though to a large extent you wouldn't even guess the games were on when you went around the city, because there was very little obvious signage anywhere. And we all came home. You know, Japanese people are very polite to each other. And we all got into the habit of bowing to each other when we were saying goodbye and hello and thank you. And I'm still doing it to people. I did it in the local shop the other day, and I think somebody thought I was a complete lunatic, but I was just saying thank you very much, and I was kind of doing a big bow. They're just such gentle, kind people, and really, really wonderful. They did a great job. When I think of that fabulous stadium, Chris, that they put up for in Bajikoan for the equestrian event, and that it was empty the whole time we were there, that really was a bit sad, let's be honest, that our sport, along with all the other sports, should have been enjoyed by the Japanese public. But unfortunately, stupid old COVID has spoiled a lot of things along the way. And it is a shame that they couldn't really see how wonderful our sport could be. But anyway, that's the reality of life at the moment. So my takeaway was the kindness of the Japanese people and the resilience of our sport, of our equestrian sports people, and of sports people and all the athletes in all the different sports. That I would have been, I suppose I would have accepted if these games had not gone ahead. But now I can see why it was so important for those athletes to go and give it a shot when the time was right for them. And in the case of equestrian sports, when it was was right for them and their horses. You have your moment. And for the people who won the medals, this was it. And the good sportsmanship. The last thing I should mention, I think, is I loved the tug of war between the Americans and the Swedes in the team event in jumping, and how it didn't really matter who won the gold or the silver. The thrill of the chase was there for everybody, and the smile on McLean Ward's face, and Laura Kraut's happiness, and Jessica Springsteen's amazing performance. I have to say, amazing performance over the entire week. They were just deserving of medals. And at the end of the day, that's how it all worked out. It didn't matter that it was silver. It was just great, great sport.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny you should say that. That's the feeling I got anyway, that it really was such a wonderful sport, wonderful competition, that it really
I've never come across such
but they all
a feeling
one.
At the top level of equestrian sport before. A generosity of spirit about who finished where.
Right.
Just getting there, competing well, and coming away with something, or doing your horse justice and doing your country justice. That was enough. And that's kind of nice. It was, as I say, again, quite refreshing. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very sporting. Yes. Very sporting. But the atmosphere, without the crowds, without the supporters, I know this affected a lot of athletes in different sports. I'm just wondering if it did in equestrian sport. Was the absence of an
you might have thought it would have affected it more. You might have thought it would affect it more, but like the horse inspection was always staged up near the judges' box at that end of the arena, and the everybody, all the alacadoos for the various horses and whoever was there, and there weren't that many people, but there were still some, would sit in the stand just in that area. And it's amazing how much noise a few people can make, because it looked busy during the horse inspection. When the competitions were on in the arena, people were all sitting at that end and waiting for them to come out through the in-gate and cheering and shouting. And it didn't feel like there was nobody there. It really didn't, even though like it was eerie beforehand. But once the competition was on, you didn't have a sense of that. You really didn't. So it didn't spoil it from that to that extent. But there does seem to be, obviously, there's something missing from those games that nobody can ever do anything about, and that is the enthusiasm and the excitement from of the stadium wasn't there. But it didn't stop the supporters of each of the riders and horses as they went into the arena from getting very excited. So yeah, but it was odd, very odd, but nevertheless it worked.
Yeah. Well, it would be remiss of me to not mention the 3-horse rule, and there's been much conversation and print about the 3-horse rule, and wondering if it will continue, whether it will for Paris. Just in summary, what your takeaway was from that experience.
Lots of
it's not
grumbling.
The first time, it's not the last time it's happened.
Initially, lots of grumbling about, shouldn't have happened, all of this kind of thing. But as the week kind of evolved, people began to kind of, everybody kept saying, the fact is we came here knowing what the rules are, so we have to just go along with it because that's the way it is. There wouldn't be any point in turning up for these games if you were going to say, well, it's kind of stupid to start saying, well, it's all wrong. Because even though some people didn't like not having the 4th member on the team, they all signed up for it, as I say, before they turned up, and there's not much point in going over the same thing over and over again. In the long term, I can certainly see that there will be some changes. Whether that will be the complete change or not, I don't know. Funnily enough, McLean Ward was one of the people who, said he was uncomfortable with it, but he thought he could see some options for how the system that was used in Tokyo might be tweaked rather than completely changing it. So what I would hope very much is that while there will be changes, that the excitement level that the 3 per team brought to this games was undeniable. So there may be some way some genius can come up with a plan for incorporating maybe a 4-man team that turns, or a 4-lady team that goes in, that then morphs into a 3-person team. I don't know. There were all sorts of things being bandied about by the end of the week, but not one of the people who won a medal could deny that the 3-team member format had produced electrifying sport. So I think we'll see changes, but whether they'll be about reintroducing a 4th team member or not, I don't know. But lots of discussion coming up, I think. Lots of discussion.
Mm-hmm.
Can you believe it?
And Paris will be here in 3 short years, and how wonderful that will be at, and the venue for it, beautiful venue there for the equestrian events in Paris. Wow. And then, of course, you're coming over to LA 4 years later, and then Brisbane. So
there is
lots to look forward to with the Olympic format. Yeah, we'll see how that goes. Yeah, and in the meanwhile, you're going to be zipping over to Germany for the European Championships dressage.
Reisenbeck, I'm going there on Monday. It starts on Wednesday.
It starts on the 1st of October.
And that's, as you know, an equestrian centre owned by Ludger Beerbohm. And he's had a gun to his head, really, because he offered to run these Europeans because, as you know, they were cancelled and then rescheduled. But his equestrian centre is still very much in the initial stages of being put together. So he's been under a lot of pressure to get the place ready to go. But I think he's probably going to do a fantastic job. In fact, I'm sure he's going to do a fantastic job. And I'm looking forward to running the press conferences when I'm there for him. And then the following week, we're all off to Hagen in Germany for the dressage, which apparently is only 30 minutes away from Riesenbeck. So it's going to be a German fortnight.
Yeah, very convenient for you, yeah.
Thank you.
A German fortnight, indeed. Well, I hope your travels are safe and and all with all the COVID protocols.
More PCR tests, unfortunately.
The whole experience is safe, and we get some good sport. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll bet. All right. Well, some great sport too, no doubt, in Germany. We'll look forward to that. Louise, well, thanks for taking time to come on the show and give us your reflections on Tokyo. And remind everybody where they can read and follow you on social media.
Parkesmedia.eu. And I write a lot of press releases for the FEI, so a lot of those are posted on the FEI website. I also write quite a bit for the Irish Independent newspaper, so independent.ie, and my own silly little Facebook page, which is just Louise Parkes.
And we're, of course, on wispsports.com, where you'll find the show notes for this episode, and on your social media channels at Wisp Sports. Thank you for listening.